Hello. Hopefully we're fine. Hi, Miss Melody. Is the mic working this time? Please. Oh, good. Okay. Sorry, I'm laughing at my son. He's trying to squeak around quietly. Oh, evening, Siobhan. In the middle of the night, you are. Well, they didn't directly say what the delay was. So, just so we recap here, for those that maybe were not tuned in earlier. It's real life. Oh my, 2:45 a.m. Oh my gosh, that is not cool. So we're just going to quick play the really short version of the hearing, just so anybody that might be tuning in. Hi, evening, Sandy. Can hear what happened. It's really short.
So Haley, we're just waiting for the jail to log in, and I assume his dad's logging in. Attorney Larson, can you hear me? Well, that's unfortunate. Good thing Mr. Vue logs in. They usually come in.
This delay was because they were bringing in Elijah's biological father, Jimmy Vue, from the prison that he is in to be able to observe the hearing. Yeah, Sandy, I did.
Yes, I can, Judge.
All right. Then we'll go on the record. In the state of Wisconsin versus Katrina Bauer, 24 CF 163. Appearances starting in the courtroom.
State appears by Jacqueline LeBrie.
And on Zoom.
Katrina Bauer appears by Zoom with her attorney, Ann Larson.
The matters on the calendar for plea date today. Attorney Larson, what's the status?
Your Honor, we are asking for a very brief adjournment. There are two items that need further investigation. We're not quite prepared, so we are requesting a short adjournment.
I would note for the record that Attorney Larson, Attorney LeBrie, and Attorney LeBrie, I should say, met with the court earlier so that that can be communicated. Attorney LeBrie, you understand the nature of the issues that Attorney Larson is requesting the adjournment for?
Yes, Judge.
All right. Based on that, I believe that July 26th at 1 o'clock is a date and time that's going to work for everybody. Attorney LeBrie, that date and time works for you?
Yeah.
And Attorney Larson, July 26th at 1 o'clock will work for you?
It does.
All right. we'll make the same arrangements then in regards. Attorney Larson, I take it you want your client on Zoom again?
Yes.
All right. Anything else for the record? Well, actually, here, hold on. Under the provisions of Marcy's Law, anyone who would be a victim in the case has the opportunity to address the court. I think this is Mr. Vue from Oshkosh Correctional. Mr. Vue, if that's you, can you give me a thumbs up? All right. Mr. Vue, you logged in just a little late. The nature of what's going on today is they've requested an adjournment because there are some issues that have to be finalized before we can proceed. So we're moving this to, we're moving the actual plea date to July 26th, which is going to be next Friday at 1 o'clock. We'll make arrangements to have you on Zoom again. But you do have the right under Marcy's Law to address the court today if you want to. If there's anything you want to say, give me a thumbs up and we'll work on getting you unmuted. All right, otherwise we'll just have you again on Zoom next Friday. And I believe based on people that are logged in on Zoom, that he would be the only one who might make a statement today. So, Attorney Bree, anything else for the record?
No, Judge.
Attorney Larson?
No, Your Honor.
All right, then we're adjourned. So, Mr. Vue.
All right. Well, yeah. Yeah, Siobhan. Yeah, I agree with you completely. It sounds to me like they possibly knew this was going to happen earlier today. So why the process is what it is to still have these 3-4 minute hearings. I don't get it. I don't get it. Why they even bother wasting everybody's time, including, you know, all the people who care and have been waiting for some hair of judgment, not just for Elijah, but for Katrina's daughter, who is also a victim. It's frustrating. So what I was saying when I couldn't be heard at the end of the stream earlier was I had a theory immediately on what one of these issues or things that they need to look into or investigate or research or whatever they want to call it, which has got me kind of really hot and bothered, which it shouldn't get me upset because I don't know anything. I'm assuming. But I think that one of the issues is that she is likely not going to be in jail very long. And when she takes this plea, that there's going to be a conversation again about where she would be on parole, probation, house arrest, and the logistics of that, where it's going to be located, if they think they can sell that location. And I have a feeling that the defense brought to the table a potential location where she can have her probation, parole, house arrest, whatever. And the state wasn't comfortable with where that was. That's a theory that I have. And I also think that there's a potential that there would be the request for restraining orders, protection orders to be put in place for no contact with her daughter. And that could also be a potential issue. That's just me speculating. because the plea has been on the table since April, the offer. Oh, I'm sure that, yeah, I'm sure, Sandy, that, well, actually, now I didn't see anything where they did an eviction. At least not in her name. So her belongings might have been taken out, but that's actually got me thinking, like, how has she not been evicted? Boy, do you think she will stay at her mom's? Well, it doesn't sound to me like that was what they were asking for when they had the hearing for the bond reduction a couple months ago. But it seems like her mom has, maybe shown a little empathy. I just don't know if her mom is going to want to take on cohabitating and take on the responsibility, because it is a responsibility and she would have to make certain agreements. So I'm going to say no. Now, if I remember correctly, I think she has 2 sisters, and I believe she does speak with one of those sisters. And that could have potentially been who she was speaking with, who she was talking about staying with earlier. Thank you, Siobhan. But depending on where the sister lives, it can be a factor, because I don't believe that she lives in Manitowoc County, and she is supposed to be, under most situations, released to parole or probation in the county in which she offended, and then that county, and that's where the responsibility to ensure that she's being monitored would be at. So I don't believe either of her sisters live in Manitowoc County. And the offense occurred in Manitowoc County. Now, she lived in a different county, quite a ways from where Manitowoc County was, but I believe it is based on where the offense occurred. Not to say they don't ever make exceptions to that, because I know they have. If your family, they're the only person that is willing to allow you to be housed. But part of the pre-sentence investigation that I'm most anxiously awaiting is to see what we're going to hear regarding her mental health, and also her history of addiction. And I'm very curious to see, if they discuss that in depth, and if they explain more of what she's been saying and things like that, or if they are going to if she snowed them all, and pulled the wool over their eyes, and, so Rocco's asking if she's going to be sentenced to any jail time. And we talked about this, I think, last week or something. And I believe, what was the max sentence on so she currently has, what she's charged with now is 1 felony count of the child neglect, 1 misdemeanor count of child neglect, and the misdemeanor is for her daughter and her leaving her daughter in the car in the winter with the car off so she could go in to Jesse Vang's apartment and do the business. And then she came out, but she was in the middle of the night in the car in the cold for hours. So she's only looking, and then she's charged with 2 misdemeanor counts of obstruction, obstructing an officer. And I believe I think it was, it's an H class felony. So if class H felony, if the natural and probable consequence of the violation would be a harm, although harm did not actually occur, I believe the max was 6 years. Now, what I had explained is, number one, this is a first time offense. And as much as it makes everybody sick, typically the judges and the prosecutors and all the attorneys, they basically, regardless of what all of us believe in our hearts, they can only go off of what the actual charges are and the reality of her criminal history and other factors. And so based on the fact that she has not been charged with something like this before and convicted, at least not in the state of Wisconsin. Now, I do believe in a pre-sentence investigation. If she has been convicted in California, Nevada, Minnesota of crimes, they can discuss those things in the pre-sentence investigation. They are supposed to just not dig within the state. Now, I believe if you cut like even that in half, you get it down to 3 years. And then the fact that she's a first-time offender, I think the last time we talked about this, I broke this down to like 18 months. And she's probably, and that would be if she got credit for time served. And then I do not believe they're not going to be doing this sentencing on the same day as the plea. They picked it, I don't remember off the top of my head what it was, a later date for the actual sentencing because they have to allow time for the pre-sentencing investigation, and they're not going to start the pre-sentencing investigation until the plea has actually been made and agreed to. And I think I said she'd be lucky if she was in there for, max. Like, I'd be surprised if it was even 9 months. And that it's very common in situations where they're not a repeat offender that they do deferred sentences where basically they let you out. And if you behave yourself and you don't get arrested again, don't fail drug tests, stuff like that, you basically serve your sentence almost like in the form of a probation. But if you mess up, then you get pulled back in and you have to finish your sentence out in prison. I would be surprised if she was in there much longer than 6, max 9 months. I believe that we will see the obstruction charges be dropped, and they could stack the sentence for the misdemeanor neglect charge regarding the daughter. But even if they did that, I mean, we are talking next to nothing. But I brought this up before, that one of my big concerns with her getting out is, well, there is a concern of tampering, obviously, with evidence, tampering with witnesses. But on the reverse of that, I would not put it past Jesse Vang or his associates, which we've covered in a whole nother stream, absolutely how dangerous these people are. That something could happen to her because she took this plea and then she's out there. And she could be swayed by, they want to protect themselves, and not risk that she's going to get swayed or coerced, by family or loved ones, to just fess up and tell things or to make a deal. I think honestly, she's too selfish to make a deal, and give up any information she may know about where Elijah is. I think she's way too selfish for that. I'm not a doctor, but I think we are looking at maybe psychopathy, maybe a sociopath. I think that she is far more disturbed than a lot of us realize. And that's why I have a lot of interest in what the findings are going to be in that pre-sentence investigation. The judge, from the beginning of this case, has, in my opinion at least, been pretty harsh, that I'm not going to reduce bond under the circumstances of Elijah being missing. He was not willing to reduce bond. So the fact that in the 11th hour, her attorney, and it sounded like her attorney really had to convince her to take this deal. She had to work at it, even though she probably won't get much. And the fact that she had to work at it tells me that she does have concerns about being on the outside and what could happen to her. I think that they're underestimating her ability to flee, and that they're underestimating the connections that the Vang family has, and that she could be hidden. She could flee. I just think that there's a lot of different things that could happen if she were to get out of there. There's a possibility she'd just get right back on drugs, and but it isn't fair. I don't think any of us think it's fair. I don't even think law enforcement thinks that this is fair. And the feeling I pick up from the prosecution is that they're like sick that they had to even offer a deal. Yes. So yeah, Jimmy, which is Elijah's biological father, who was there on the Zoom also. Yes, he is still in prison until 2031. Marcy's Law, he's Elijah's father, he's a victim, but make no bones about it, that man was abusive to his son. He was abusive to Katrina and who knows how many other people. He is not he's not a good person. So we can't get that twisted either. And Jesse is, for those who don't know, he is scheduled for a status conference in the end of September. I was happy about that because the longer they kick the can down the road, there's the opportunity to continue searching and hopefully find Elijah and potentially get the charges upgraded. Now, we did learn in his last hearing that, they dumped a bunch of evidence on the defense that they have not had the opportunity to go through. I don't know if that evidence is evidence, meaning they're going to upgrade the charges, because right now, even though, as far as we know, Katrina was not the one committing all of those acts that we've learned about, it was Jesse. Despite all that, he is facing just one count of child neglect. That's it. And I believe it said like specified harm did not occur because they can't, point to the direct cause. Let me just double check. Yeah, it's same class H felony, chronic neglect of a child. So those two both have that same exact felony count because the chronic neglect of harm is repetitive neglect. With the daughter, they could only prove at the time they were arrested the instance that she was left in the car because there was electronic forensic evidence regarding that. Now, he's got his status conference September 27th. Now, what evidence they dumped on him? Will be interesting to learn. Could they upgrade the charges? Could they add counts? Absolutely. If it gets severe enough, then maybe he would take a plea. Judging by the look on his face, I don't know. I take him as someone who thinks a plea deal is like snitching. However, he is also wanted, he had federal charges that he was in prison for, and this occurred, I believe it was like while he was on parole for federal drug charges. So my understanding is the feds want him too. They want to yank him back. They might have priority where whatever he got sentenced for this, he might have to serve his federal charges first and then be sent back to the local county and then put into a state prison after that. He has a record 10 miles long. So he could potentially get the max on that class H. But in this case, unless we learn something that came from the other states, and my understanding is it's unlikely because I don't believe she had either of her children in those other states. So if that is correct, it's not likely that there's going to be charges related to neglect in another state. Now, if she had other convictions that we've not dug up yet, then or bail jumping charges where they could possibly show flight risk. I'm curious, as we all know, her mom made that very powerful statement to the court to keep her daughter in jail. And she asked for a restraining order, a protective order, if she were to be released. Now, based on that, if she is not released to her mother, short of her mom coming in and taking that back, I'm curious if in the sentencing we will hear a protective order being issued so that she cannot be near her mom. Now, I'd be curious if at that sentencing hearing, I really would like to hear from her mom again. I would like to hear if her mom is going to go in there and express sympathy or empathy for Katrina, or if she's going to hold firm and strong and say the truth. This girl needs to be behind bars, and she has mental health issues and addiction issues, and those things need to be dealt with while she's in there, but she is not safe to be released. She should not be walking amongst the public. People are underestimating or discounting the severity of what happened in this, not just what Jesse did, but what Katrina, allowed, enabled, reinforced. I mean, she co-signed all of this against that poor, sweet, precious 3-year-old boy. A 3-year-old boy. You look at that sweet little angel's face and I just couldn't even imagine swatting that kid on the butt. I mean, he's just got this angelic face and he looks so sweet and innocent, and they are trying to brainwash him and militarize him and be the next Elijah Vue soldier in their gang. They want to raise him up to be a man and a leader, and do the horrific things that all of them did. And when you dig into Jesse's record, and we go as deep as we have gone and seen the things he has done, he should not have been on the streets for this to even have happened. It is constant failure for our babies, our children. He should not have been where he was. All of the history of abuse, trafficking of humans, trafficking of drugs, battery, assault, I mean, you name it. And he was allowed to walk amongst everybody else, living in the same apartment building with an unregistered SO, because I don't know why that POS hasn't had to register. That's another person who likely aided and abetted in this activity. And that person is in hiding, being protected, who knows, and was allowed access to a 3-year-old little boy along with Jesse's autistic teenage son. Why are these humans allowed to walk amongst us humans? It shouldn't even be. Why do you guys keep letting, not you guys, but our justice system, why do you keep reducing the value every moment of our children? The worst acts, in my opinion, probably even worse than murder, are crimes against children. If you commit heinous crimes against children, you should not have the rights. You should not be allowed to walk around and pretend like life is hunky-dory while the rest of us have to lock our kids up inside because you get to wander around free. I have to worry because I have a beautiful daughter, and I have to worry all the time if everybody that's looking at her is a sick, twisted person, or just somebody who's like, oh, you have a beautiful daughter, she's adorable. Or, I mean, it's not fair. It's not fair. And the physical abuse against these children, like $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 bond, cut that in half. Or Bryson Muir, his parents are out on bail. What the? Yep, we fled, we hid, we bunkered down, we're brainwashing, we're beating him, but yeah, let us go. We're not going to go anywhere. We'll never do it again. Just let us go chill in our big old estate that's paid for by our cult family. Ruby Frankie, Jody Hildebrandt. Oh, let's just give them as little bit of time as possible so they can get back out there and they can train more minions to go out there and do this to more children. How many times are we all supposed to sit back and watch these sick people be released back in society, and we're just supposed to deal with it? Nobody's protecting them. And then we have to work 5 times as hard to protect our kids because of the mistakes that are made in the justice system, the mistakes that are made with DCFS, CPS, the mistakes that are made by all the people who don't find these crimes as heinous as the rest of us do. How many of the cases that we talk about involve a failure of either the justice system, CPS, DCFS? How many? How many of these cases do you hear about where you hear the people say, well, CPS was never called. No one ever saw anything. Everything always seemed, not really often, because people do see. They see. But nothing happens. Most of these cases, we're covering many cases right now where there are abusers and potential murderers living their best life right now, laughing at us, laughing at law enforcement. Ha ha, one step ahead of you. You were so dumb you didn't look there. I mean, CPS is at this point, it's a joke. It is an absolute joke. The bar that you have to reach to lose your child the right to be a parent, it's way too high. Way too high. And in some cases, the goal of reuniting being best in the end is not, because there are some people that no matter what you do, their mind is never going to be rewired. They are going to be, you cannot always undo somebody who has lived a life of abuse, became an abuser. That's all they know. And they just keep throwing them back in with everybody else. And then you're supposed to be shocked when their name is all over social media or the newspaper because they reoffend. Or instead of hitting this time, the child lost their life. I just read a case. I don't know if you've read it. I just read an article about a foster mom, I think it was, an extremely heavy-set foster mom who laid on this little boy to keep him under control so he wouldn't run away. She suffocated him to death. And what's she going to get? Probably like, I don't know, manslaughter, like negligent homicide. I don't know. Like, oh, what do you do? It's like it's unreal. Like, okay, I mean, look at Sebastian. There's people from that young man's life that should be behind bars for things that were done before he went missing. At least the Two Rivers Police Department took action on the known crimes, even if they were not in a position to take action on the unknown crimes. How about that, Tennessee? How about that? No. Let's just let them all walk amongst us. Yes, Dolores, exactly. Let's just give these people more kids. They didn't go on the internet and tell tens of thousands of people about things they did to their child that were awful, and they're just living their best life. But let's give them another child to take care of for the summer. No biggie, right? How and if I could say something to Katrina's mom, Jody, it's a very hard lesson as a daughter or a son to learn. When you have children, the grandparents, most of their gut instinct changes. While they absolutely want to protect their son or their daughter, their paternal and maternal instincts oftentimes then change to being more instinctual towards their grandchildren, more protective over their grandchildren. And if I could say one thing, it would be, I don't know Jody, I don't know Katrina, but there are things that have been made very clear that were truthful by her own mom. And it's clear to me that Katrina needs to stay where she is. And even if it hurts, the focus should stay on Elijah. Nobody should weep for her. She allowed it, may have participated, we don't know, but she allowed it. She sent with knowing intentions. She delivered her child to the devil himself. The 3 years that poor little boy was alive were spent, for the majority, under the hands of an abusive father and an abusive boyfriend. And I don't know if she was ever physically abusive with him, but there's a good chance that she, at a minimum, was emotionally and psychologically abusive to her children. So I can't have pity for her. That little boy is out there. And I think that most of us, have resounded ourselves that honestly he would, that he was either small chance that he was sold, bigger chance that he was harmed. And he deserves to be found. And I do believe that one of 3 people can deliver his location: Katrina, Jesse, or TP, the neighbor, have the answers. And I hope that law enforcement can continue to work through their forensic evidence, and find that golden egg that allows them to go back and strong arm the 3 of these people and get the answers to where he is. Because when you think about a little boy that is 3 feet tall, it's so easy to hide him and so hard to find, versus between 5 and 6 foot adult. Especially in settings where there's so much water, so much woods. And they have so many connections. For all we know, if Elijah was harmed, where he was put, it's highly possible that Jesse has people who would have moved him for him. He could have been in one place and he's not there anymore. He could have been driven to another state after Jesse was already in prison. Their connections run deep. The loyalty, the sick loyalty that these people have for one another, I don't think it has many boundaries. So I hope law enforcement is considering the possibility. I know that they've that area isn't the only area that they've had of interest, but I'm hoping that their investigation has monitored the movements and whereabouts of known associates as well of Jesse and the neighbor, TP. Because what a faster way to cover your rear end would be to move locations. So there's people out there that are willing to do the dirty work. There was another death today, remains that were named. Yesterday was Caleb. It just, gave me a heavier feeling that, before summer's out, how many more will be found. And you want them to be found because there's peace with that. There's answers. If it wasn't an accident, the road to justice can begin to eventually get to peace. But I just wish we had people in our state governments and state agencies and local agencies that were brave enough to stand up and remind the people who make these laws and decisions and sentencing guidelines and CPS regulations and rules, understand that the rest of us, normal people in the public, enough is enough. We're not trying to feed our children at the slaughter. It's just awful. I mean, it's just awful. And, sentencing needs to change. Minimums need to go way up for crimes that involve children. And they just need to wake up and realize these people shouldn't have been out to do these things. But people have to make change. And too often the things that are talked about, by all of these powers that be are, yes, things that might affect our homes or our everyday lives or our finances or education. But when all is said and done, our safety for ourselves and our children, that has to be priority one. Because you can take everything I have if it means my kids are safe. None of it matters if my kids aren't safe. It's that simple. So this has been a pretty awful week for me personally, but also with all of this, it has been just so upsetting. Really gets me mad at just the state of our world, the state of all of our agencies and governments and law enforcement in some states, not all, and definitely with our justice system, because law enforcement's job is to deliver them, but it's the justice system, the attorneys, the judges, the juries, is their jobs to put them where they belong, keep them where they belong, to deliver sentences that fit the crimes. And I'm not going to say that drugs don't destroy families, because I talk about it all the time. Drugs do destroy families. They destroy lives every single day. But there's people who have sold marijuana who have ended up in prison longer than those who have harmed children. That's not good. There are people who have committed, financial offenses, financial crimes, who have spent more time in jail than people who harm children. When are they going to wake up? My feeling is what usually happens. It takes something actually happening in someone's own personal life before they care enough to work on making change. So the people that get to make change and make the decisions and that have the control and the power, gonna have to sit around and wait for something bad to happen to them or their family or their kid before they care enough. In Elijah's case, breaks my heart even more because I always hear the law enforcement statements where they're talking about how they think about their own children. And that's what drives them, is that they really believe, what if that was my son? What if that was my daughter? I dream about finding him. They're affected deeply by what's going on. So I have a feeling any of the law enforcement that are part of Two Rivers, and the other agencies that are involved in the investigation for Elijah, I have a feeling that they're very upset today as well, and they're probably not getting much sleep tonight, because this is probably a slap in the face to them too, and their effort, because it just isn't often that we see things. But we did see it with like Stephen Stearns, where they charged him with what they had and took the time to build the case on the other stuff. And in that case, who the hell knows what was worse than the other? It was, but a lot of these other cases, they won't charge them with the known crimes. They will just wait and see if they ever get the big fish. Look at Summerwell's parents. Do you think if you listen to them speak, if you listen to Don and Candace Wells speak, especially Don, do you think that he should be walking in society ever? That he should ever be allowed to be around children ever? No. No. but I mean, he likely sold one daughter, and we don't know. He could have sold Summer, or she's not with us anymore. We don't know. But they're just, he's just, I mean, come on. Like, you can talk about a youth, on a live interview, um, in a sexual manner, and he didn't have cuffs put on him. Like, it's sick. It's sick. So this is about all I got in me tonight. Yeah, only about an hour. Because like I said, it's been a hard week, and this just keeps getting more and more infuriating, and upsetting. And you feel very powerless, because you can't do anything. So yeah, that's about all I got tonight, guys. I really appreciate you guys. What is that, next Friday? I think it was 2:00 is supposed to be. Who knows? by next week, maybe she'll change her mind and she won't want to take the deal anymore at all. Maybe she'll act spoiled and say, well, if I don't get it my way, I don't want to take the deal. I'll take it to trial. Let's see. It will be 1 p.m. Central Standard Time on the 26th. Have a great evening, Siobhan. Thank you so much. Yeah. So if you were born in 92, I'm doing math here. So what? That'd be 8. It's late. Sorry. 19 years old. Was her disorderly conduct. 18 years old. Underage drinking. Okay. So if she had a criminal record herself, just like the neighbor TP, I mean, her adult criminal record began 3 months after she turned 18. So the odds are very high that she had juvenile records are not public, at least in the state of Wisconsin. The odds are there's quite a history in her juvenile record. I'm going to do more research to see if I can find anything on the charges in the other states that have been alleged. I cannot confirm. I'm going off of statements by the family or the mom that things occurred in other states. I will do some digging into that. But thank you, all of you guys, for tuning in. I appreciate you guys. And let's just hope we make it out of this week by tomorrow night and there's no more casualties. That would be something, right? So I hope all of you guys take care. I'm going to try to get some sleep tonight, and I hope you all do too. And thank you so much for staying up with me, and I will be back soon.